Welcome and thank you for joining us. I'm Shareen. This is my friend Jennah Synnestvedt, and we are here amongst friends. Jennah is the owner of Soulful Brand and the founder of Aspen Oracle, and my good friend now for several years. so, and today we're just excited to see what unfolds because, as you know, you can talk about anything amongst friends. How are you today, Jennah?
Awesome. I'm good, Shareen. Thanks for inviting me to come here and chat with you. It's exciting. It's always amazing to me how when friends get together, all of a sudden everything else kind of washes away, whatever was was happening before this, or any kind of feelings of like more, when we get together as friends, it all of a sudden we're uplifted. So I'm having that experience right now. I came from a body work session where I think my brain and body were rearranged. So I was kind of like coming here, and now it's like, okay, I'm back.
Well, welcome back. We're glad. We're glad that your brain and your body aren't reversed anymore.
Rewiring. I think it
Yeah,
was, just a rewiring in a good way. But
very good.
when you get up off the table and you're like walking around like a zombie, kind of.
Yes, and it's usually at that point where it says, "Can I ask you something?" You're like, sure. Not sure I can answer, but go ahead. Ask me anything." At least
Yep.
that's how I am after, not after every chiropractic adjustment, but there are some where it's just like, whoa, I don't know what just changed there, but no.
Yeah, after one of my sessions, she decided to give me some exercises to do, which were pretty complicated. Like, you're supposed to hold your hand here and like breathe for 5 minutes. And then you switch to the spleen and the heart. And I'm like, I don't even know where the spleen is. I don't even know where my toes are right now. She had to send those to me later on again.
That's,
Mhm.
so what's on the top of your head today? What do you want to chat about? Where do you want me to start?
Well, I, of course, do always tune into these things a little ahead of time. So I thought of a few different topics came to mind, and then new topics came to mind, and then emotions rose to the surface. And so right now where I'm at is kind of like, yeah, let's just see what wants to unfold, which sounds like it's your intention of this. So
Yeah.
I'm on board.
Cool. Yeah, I'm just today I'm amazed at how fast and how clear spring arrived this year, especially contrasting it to last year where it arrived in a whole different way with panic and shutdown. And I mean, it was new. We were
Uh,
all having to be new and different, but
you had a blizzard there, right? And had to like,
that was 2 years ago, actually. Last year was
oh,
just the whole pandemic moment
oh, right.
of everything
Yeah,
coming in.
that.
Oh yeah, that little thing, shaking up everything we knew to be true about life.
I think it's just going to be a blip in the radar coming, like, oh, that happened. Or maybe it will be the blip that changed life forever.
Yeah, yeah. I do think in many ways it'll be both. Like, well, it'll have changed life forever, but we'll go on in a way that becomes like, well, that's how life's always been, and it'll be like, oh no, do you remember before this we used to do that? Why would we do that? Why would we have lived that way? Um, so I think it's yeah, but today I was just amazed. It's like, oh, it's like April 9th and it's beautiful outside and just did normal things and there was no panic, no. It was just a nice normal day. Energetically nice and smooth and
Yeah, I felt that today. Like it was real easy to stay grounded and present with what I wanted to do. And I didn't want to push myself to do more. And I was okay with that. And it felt really good to be in that space.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, I know you and I are both working on different body things. Um, I've been working on just trying to be nicer to mine as far as what I put into it. And whether it's my body helping or spirit helping or both, there have been things that I've done as normal or tolerated for a long time that's suddenly like, yeah, you can't eat that. Sorry, it just can't. It's just not going to work for you anymore. Um,
Mhm.
and so, in some ways, that's made it easier to adapt changes. And in other ways, of course, the inner teenager, I'm going to call her, the inner teenager in me is just throwing fits. Like, excuse me? What do you mean I can't have that?
Yep.
It's been, yeah, I'm going on week 3 of no coffee. Week 3 or 4, might be 4. I think week 3 of truly no coffee. Week 4 of where I was like, I can't do coffee anymore, and then I would not do it for 4 or 5 days, and of course, the caffeine headache and the inner war between my body itself, what different parts wanted, and so I'd try some coffee, like one sip, and be like, nope. So that's been good. Um, and I will say, in a lot, it's interesting how I felt my energy shift with it. Yeah, just not dulled down. I never thought of coffee as something that was dulling me, you know?
Right, because typically our experience is it hypes, it
Yeah,
gives us energy and hypes us up and helps us do things.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
and I know that you've been recently doing cacao, which some people out there really know, and many people do not. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, do you want to talk about cacao at all, or is that not in your sphere
I
today?
have my cup of cacao here, which they've already started drinking. And well, one of the things that I love about cacao, particularly this cacao that I drink, it's and do ceremonies with that. I don't even call them ceremonies, I call them gatherings, cacao gatherings at Aspen Oracle. Um, and we could go into the reason, about why I don't necessarily call them ceremonies, but first of all, it's this cacao, this plant that is this beautiful presence and healing energy to commune with and then to alchemize through the physical body. So it's a really great harmonizer of the physical and the spiritual. So even as I picked up this cacao, I could feel my heart start to like shift and be like, oh, when you asked, do I want to talk about the cacao? It's like, well, I've got to talk with the cacao and see what we want to talk about, because we're kind of co-creating this together. And that's one of the things I've been working with food lately, is really how um, each thing we eat has a living presence, whether it's still alive or not. It has a spirit to it, and there's a relationship it has with our body. And so how we treat it and how we treat ourselves as we're um, consuming, or maybe that's not even the right word, working with, in partnership with, through this ingestion digestion process, is adds to the whole experience of it. And so just tuning into the cacao and like what we might want to say about it today. I mean, it's already happening as I am saying these things. But I've been yeah, I met this cacao, if we want to talk at it like a living entity or a spirit. I met it a number of years ago, maybe 3 years ago or so, on the holidays. A good friend and client of mine, Ellen Adkins from the Suburban Monk. She's got this great little Buddha 2 thumbs up statue. I could grab one, but the cat's on my lap. You probably have one though.
I
But
do have one.
we could talk about Sid too.
We could talk about Sid too. Yeah, this is my little red Sid.
Yeah, that's so. This wonderful woman sent me a gift of this legacy cacao, and I opened the package. I don't even think I knew what it was, but I opened the package. I might have read the card, which was written by the founder that Ellen had told her about me or something. And I just burst into tears. And
wow,
it was tears of joy. The only other time, or one of the only other times, the only time I can remember that I had this experience as well was when I connected with one of my spiritual teachers, someone I had a big spiritual agreement with, about going on a spiritual pilgrimage with her in Greece, Susan Bostwick. And when I called in, I think it was an informational workshop about that pilgrimage. And as she started the meditation, the same sorts of tears of joy, like tears of joy and tears of relief, like just flooding out. This feeling of like deep recognition and spirit being seen as a soul or soul connection or soul synchronicity. I don't even know what exactly, but there was some sort of spark there of like, yes, this is part of my path in a big way. So that was the first time I met the cacao, and I guess I didn't even know it was cacao yet. It was just this package with tissue paper on it and this beautiful card. And then, it led me on a journey of taking a road trip in the Western United States where I got to visit you, Shareen.
it's true. We had a good time.
Some cacao gatherings around in Utah and Oregon and California. And Shareen and I explored the beach and the woods and all that beautiful place in Oregon. And that's so much what the medicine of the cacao is too, is it's about a reconnection with the earth and how the earth supports us in a really loving way. That maybe, the core of Mother Earth has a big loving heart, like a big nurturing mother. And so I had already learned about the tools of grounding and things like that from the psychic intuitive work that I do, but it deepened it for me. It went beyond just like, oh, I'm grounding to like release energy. It's like, oh, I'm grounding because I'm in relationship with this thing called the earth. And that's part of why I'm here, and really getting to know the spirit of Mother Earth, as well as all the plants and animals, and really looking at it from that experience of oneness, I guess, of affinity. So, and I know you being from Oregon, the land there is just amazing, the beach and the trees. And I know a lot of planetary healer type people are called there, either to travel there or move there. So many of my, like, I wouldn't necessarily call them gypsy friends, but like just free spirits who, every time you look on Facebook, they're landed in a different place every 6 months or a year. And so I see people going there just being called by Oregon, and you were actually born and raised there. So I'm wondering.
Yeah, actually, I was born in Washington.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Close.
And then I moved to Oklahoma. And then we moved.
Things I don't know about you.
Yeah. No, but Oregon definitely, after living several places, and some, I had no choice over because my parents moved. But later, when I was in college and on my own and stuff, I went to Michigan, I went to West Virginia, I went to back to Oklahoma, I went different places, and the land here, and I think it is definitely a combination, the land and the plants here and the water, like it's a trifecta. Like the plants on their own don't talk to me. The rivers on their own a little bit, the ocean on its own a little bit, but there's something about just saying hello to the wholeness of it that, um, yeah. And then I love what you said about, grounding can just be something you connect just to release energy, but but it's a whole different thing when you ground and really allow the earth to hold you, to become, I mean, you're not rooted in the same way a tree is, but kind of. I mean, like to become just there and taking sustenance and releasing and having that two-way conversation. I went on a little out and about last week. Just found a dirt road I'd never been on before. And then it opened up into this spot, and on one side was this rock wall with ferns growing all the way up it, like, and ferns that were, probably 3 times the size of me. I felt like I was in Jurassic Land on that side. And then the other side, there were 2 little creeks that came together and then flowed together, and the sound and the energy and the plants and everything there, and I took a video of it because there was no traffic noise, no city noise, no animal. I mean, it was just like only the noise of the wind and the water. And that was beautiful. But when I watched it back, I realized it's like, oh, the thing I can't capture with this video is the feeling of the earth in harmony with that. And it kind of made me sad because like I so want to share
Mm,
that. You're like, here, watch this and feel what I felt that day. And
mm,
it
mm,
doesn't work that way.
mm.
But
Yeah.
um yeah, it's totally, and I think right now, well, the earth is shifting some things around whether we like it or not so that she can have more growth, more breathing, more whatever, um and is still there in loving support of it. It's not like she's trying to eradicate us as if we were some sort of cancer like some people some people put out there. um
Yeah, that's what someone said to me recently. Well, actually, it was Michelle, the owner of Legacy Cacao. She's like, yeah, well, 'cause I don't know what it was. The conversation was, oh, are we destroying the earth? There's lots of this. We've got to save the earth. We're destroying the earth, or we're a cancer or a parasite. She's like, well, no, we're destroying ourselves. The earth will still be here after humans die. The earth will still be here and she'll regenerate and revitalize.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. The only thing we're really harming is ourselves and some associated forms of life, but
Yeah,
you know.
we could be nice, nicer. It's a relationship, and that's what I think you're speaking to with the wholeness is almost the co-creation or the alchemy of all of these things combined in any given moment are leading to something else, leading to the next moment. So in that moment where you're experiencing something that you wish you could share with people, it's like, well, maybe that experience was just for you. And you'll integrate that in a way where then you can share it with people in the way that is meant for those people, or it ripples through, I think. And yeah, it does, you think of, we do want to treat the earth kindly and have respect and not just use her. I think I remember when the Me Too movement happened, I had put a picture of Mother Earth or share. I know someone else shared it, with Me Too. It's kind of like we've been raping her for centuries. One of my friends didn't like that. She didn't like genderizing the earth, but um, there's an aspect of where I think the more unconscious we are to our relationship with it, or that it is this living being, um, the more we do cause harm, even if it's unconscious. But there's something to that, becoming conscious of, you know, our own intuition, our own heart's desires, our own relationships on these deeper levels, and the part we play
I
in it
think
all.
that's hugely important. Like most of the time we especially when we look at relationships just in general, it's or at least for me early on in my life and most of my life, it was like, what does that person or that thing give me? What do they bring to me? You know, and the part of what do I give back? What's my part in it? I was really like, well, I show up and I'm nice and I do what, but it wasn't really that.
Right. I'm a good person.
Yeah, that's
We're
it.
programmed to be good people and pretend like we are perfect and pure, right?
Yeah. And so, yeah, that kind of, what am I bringing to the table? What am I sharing of myself? How, in what way am I communicating? How am I doing all these things? And, whether it's with my husband or my sons or walking in nature or the person I run into at the gas station who's pumping my gas. Cause in Oregon, we get people that do that for us.
Right. I remember when I visited, I think I tried to get out of my own car and pump my own gas. And they're like, what are you doing?
Don't break the law now. um, but yeah, that element of the awareness of what we bring and that the intent and what we bring, it really, the whole relationship is a co-creation. It's not just a word for some superficial attachment, um, yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
lost the rest of what I was going to say, but that's okay.
yeah, I was talking about this with a friend last night, actually. Well, it was a friend who I visited, and she has a sister she doesn't talk to. And then they end up living in the same city. And, um, I asked, do you guys ever run into each other? And, she explained some experiences where they had happened to be at the same thing where their mother was or something and having certain feelings or just feeling disconnected from the relationship. And I was like, well, if you're able to have that feeling of disconnection, that means there's still a connection there, right? Because nature abhors a vacuum. So if you're feeling, death energy in a space, like you're dead to me, kind of thing, or hate or grief or shame or whatever you think of when you think of a person, even if you're, estranged from your parents, all the times people will cut off relationships with their family members or parents that were unhealthy, which, yeah, you've got to protect yourself. But it's like, if there's a person you're not talking to and there's a feeling that comes up about that person, there is still a relationship there, right? And energy's going into that space. And it made me think of this whole the concept of affinity and oneness, the fourth chakra ability, affinity, which is the ability to experience universal oneness, and how in that space or with that chakra, almost there is no separation. There's always going to be a relationship with whoever we're on the planet with, whether we know them or not, whether they're a family member we don't talk to or someone we've never met. There's this collective intelligence that exists in that space, and often we don't pay attention to, I guess, those spaces in between. It's like me and you and the people I can see with my eyes or what I think I'm doing to the relationship with my mind. So it's interesting.
Yeah. Oh, totally. It's very interesting, Yeah, I often think just about how you can be going somewhere and there will be, I mean, like, well, in Oregon, and especially where I live, there's a lot of rural roads, right? So you can be like the only one on the road for like 30 minutes. And all of a sudden, in one spot, there will be a pedestrian on that side of the road, a cyclist on this side of the road, another car coming, and you all meet in the exact same horizontal moment. It's like, how did that even happen? How did we all get right here? And then move on, that kind of like there was,
Mhm.
I mean, and it certainly isn't like a deep, lasting, connected relationship. But there's something about the energy there where we all met and then we exchanged some sort of, whether it's panicked hello or or just, oh,
Mhm.
there's another person or whatever,
Yeah.
and then moved on. It's kind of
Yeah. The crossing of the paths was aligned to happen.
Yeah, it's I don't know, I just become more and more aware of like what energy am I feeling like right before that happens? Did we connect because we're all feeling anger? Did we connect because we're all feeling peace? Did we connect because
Mhm.
whatever thing there was what's happening? But
Yeah, it makes me wonder, and this is something I know you and I've talked about a lot too, is like how much we, I don't know if control or can direct our own space, right? It's kind of like that old free will versus fate discussion of how much is it the supreme being or the divine or God guiding, and how much of it is as we become more conscious of something, um, how that informs it. Like this, I thought this quote was, I just pulled up this quote that one of our Aspen Oracle community members posted yesterday. Lisa Wortman, she's offering like little energy reading sessions now. So she posted this um, Young quote. I don't know if I'm saying his name right, Carl Jung.
mm-hmm.
Um, and it says, until you make the conscious, or until, see, my conscious and unconscious are like, what's happening right now? Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I don't know if you shared an article or if something you shared made me search something. Anyway, I found an article and I can't even remember if the guy was the founder of Psyche or if it was something else. I
Oh,
guess
it's
that part
Bruce Lipton. Was it the Bruce Lipton thing I posted?
it might have been. I don't know if that's I don't really know. I just know that in the middle of the article he was talking about the speed of the unconscious mind and the speed of the conscious mind. So the unconscious mind literally moves a million times faster than the conscious mind. And it has to, because that's what keeps you breathing. That's what keeps your heart going, all these things, right? So a million times faster than the conscious mind. And the conscious mind is more powerful when it decides, like it can stop and hold the breath. You can slow your heart rate if you really practice. You can, these things. But so the conscious mind is 1,000 times more powerful than the unconscious mind, but the unconscious mind moves a million times faster. So if there is a thought or a feeling that you have, especially like say when you were 2 or 3, in the same time you're learning, that's blue and that's grass. And that, if you observe a behavior or a thing in your parents or an interaction and you write the rule, that's how that is, and it goes into the subconscious mind, then that's occurring and executing that program, that awareness, a million times faster than your conscious mind can come up, even when you're learning that maybe that's not true. There's still the
Mm-hmm.
difference between 1,000 and a million is a lot. That's why those unconscious things are not unchangeable. Once the conscious mind gets aware of it, it can change it. But until that moment, it's like a million times.
Yeah, I think I just went unconscious for most of what you were saying. Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Um,
it's just
yeah,
really
that's
fascinating.
interesting. I think I don't know if the Zoom froze here too.
And it's a little delayed, so we might just give it a second and see if it pops out of it.
Gotta let the unconscious mind catch up.
All right, I think you're back now.
Okay, are we back in real time?
I think so.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I guess with the we're kind of limited in some ways by our unconscious mind. We can only expand as much as is programmed into our unconscious mind. um, and so I know your business is called Limitless Spirit. Um, So there's that aspect of becoming conscious of things, so then you can reprogram that subconscious mind to raise the limit or lift the limit, to break the glass ceiling, to become limitless. And I think we do these, and this is something else that's been on my mind today, is we do, we have these moments of kind of going back and forth, right? When our conscious awareness, maybe a divine inspiration comes through, or a divine spark, like, ooh, yes. And that conscious mind, something new, some new trajectory happens, but then it like kind of gets lost in the subconscious mind, or stopped by the subconscious mind, because those limits haven't been reprogrammed or reset. And these are the things I wrote on my list this morning as I was thinking about this conversation, was looking at, and with the cacao too, thinking of the importance of or how we work with ceremony, ritual, and meditation in the modern world,
Mm-hmm.
as well as an intuition guided life. And so I think I'm just piecing this together as I'm saying this. It's almost like, what is an intuition guided life? And maybe that's where you tune into your inspiration. You get that divine spark, that inspired spark. And then the ceremony and the ritual and the meditation or the energy tools, all these things come into play to help us actually manifest it into reality, to have the subconscious not stop it or block it. So that we're working more in partnership with our brain and our body. Our spirit is working in partnership with our brain and our body. And it used to be, I think in more ancient times, there were scheduled in ceremonies and rituals to go into these sacred spaces and really set the trajectory for these the sort of growth. Maybe we'll
Mm-hmm.
call it growth, where there's that intuitive knowing, that inspired spark, and then how to move through changing the limits, reprogramming the subconscious mind. So there were, ceremonies set up at certain times a year, then like daily or periodic rituals. And even the way of life was more of a ceremony. That's this cacao, the legacy cacao, is prepared very much like that, where it's all intentional. From when they're harvesting the cacao plants, they're saying prayers, they're saying mantras. When it's prepared in the recipe, there's a Mayan priestess blessing it. And, that's of course just for the production process. But it is said that, to those Mayan people, that ceremony is a way of life. And I've also heard that said when it comes to meditation too. When I was at this course in Sweden right after I graduated college, I was kind of curious about meditation at that point, but I was like, oh, I don't know, what or
Oh,
why.
hold on, you
I
froze a
had
little
read
bit.
some books like The Way of the Peaceful Warrior.
Yeah. Let's give it a second. You froze for a minute. So the last thing
Okay.
you heard was Sweden, and you were kind of interested in meditation, but you didn't know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where everything froze.
Yeah, but I was kind of interested in meditation. I had read some books like The Way of the Peaceful Warrior and The Power of Intention. And I was talking to one of the teachers there, and this was a sustainability course. This is a little bit of a tangent, but actually it's relevant to what we've been talking about so far. So it was a design for sustainability course where they talked about the classical kind of sustainable pyramid, where one is like the environment, social, and economic. It's like the triple bottom line, they call it in business. But the leader of this course, this program they were developing, had put a dot in the middle of the pyramid where she said the self, the individual, is a key to all of this too. And so this was one of the first bigger hellos I had to the importance of self, self in the big scheme of things that wants to change or happen on the planet. And anyway, so off, that was the tangent, but related. So this, one of the teachers, we were talking about meditation, and he was like, well, you can meditate in every single thing you do. It's like, you don't have to go to a temple, or it's like you meditate when you brush your teeth, you meditate when you wash the dishes, you meditate when you're walking down the street. And I was like, oh, okay. And it was amazing. And I still, I think that's a little bit of what ceremony and ritual is, that we can bring that through. And I still find it helpful to go into like a meditation space, and really that space that's really just about going inward and connecting with the deeper level of things, I think is where we really let the body rest. And, this is what you and I both teach, I think, in the work we do, is like really letting the body and the emotions and kind of the power levels of stuff rest, so that you can really start to connect with spirit and go to that deeper place of reprogramming that's not being run by the survival mechanisms or the emotional mechanisms that the brain there. It's really going into the place of the soul and the spirit.
Yeah, I was yeah, and I guess I've been really exploring with a certain group of students specifically recently, that the body, yes, we designed it to be the temple that holds our spirit, but we also designed it to be our personal feedback loop. So, and the body holds things for us and it feels things for us. So the physicality and the emotions and all that is made to be a feedback loop. So when we get that, when the body talks, and if we're not listening, it just kind of keeps
gets louder
filing.
and louder.
Yeah, well, and it files in the subconscious. It files it, it stores it in. It's like, this part here you haven't dealt with. I'm just going to keep it right there above your knee. And then every time you feel that, your knee's going to hurt right there. And you're going to be like, what the heck? What's going
Yep.
on? And yeah, it gets louder. So pretty soon you're like, some people are walking around in constant pain in an area. Mostly, I think, because they don't look at that original, they've ran so far away from having to feel or understand the moment where it was first created. And then because they filed it in the subconscious, it slowly becomes just that's just part of who I am. That's how I operate. Rather than,
Instead of like really making friends
yeah,
with the body, and even looking at our, the genetics and the genetic levels. I think that was fun when I realized, oh yeah, I've kind of got this fairy body with red hair, and I created this business called Aspen Oracle that has all this like wood fairy energy. And so it's like I really chose the body that was in alignment with my purpose.
yeah,
And what I wanted to create. And our body, I think a lot of times we forget about our bodies, or we leave it behind in spiritual traditions, so like meditating and rising above the body. But it's like, no, we're in partnership with the body, and it gets messy and it hurts, and that's all
yeah,
part of the game here on earth.
yeah. And even, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, there was pervasive fear energy around that I was aware of. And my whole thing at that time was just like, just don't buy into the fear. choose something else, recognize that, and there's some validity to that. If we choose to match fear energy and live in fear, then we're choosing a vibration for ourselves. But that's a little bit different than when fear rises up in our body. It's like, oh, that's a feedback. So what's going on? What does the fear want me to notice? What's under that fear? What's it talking about? And then in that moment, you'd be like, oh yeah, I forgot this thing here, and as long as I check that off, right, then the fear goes away. Or it's like, oh yeah, I remember getting on stage for the first time and puking all over my shoes, and that was embarrassing, and people never stopped talking about it. Like, am I going to puke on my shoes? No, no, I think I got it. Okay, and the fear goes away. But when we tamp it down, or then it kind of just becomes a layered in anxiety that that's running as a looking for
Yeah.
attention. Yeah.
Or we look at it as a problem. So here we're
Yes.
going to get to everything on my list. No,
Yeah. Yes.
totally naturally. That's one of the other things to look at. It's like where things become a problem, where there's something quote unquote that's not perfect, like this body pain or this fear or fear and body pain. And then all of a sudden we start to treat it like this problem, which yes, it's something you want to maybe resolve, but it's like this problem that needs to be solved. And then we engage other people in
Oh,
that
yes.
problem solving process. Hey, fix me,
Yeah.
help me, doctor, you'll fix this for me, or healer, you'll fix this for me. And it becomes this like fix it party. Or there's unsolicited fixing, where it's like you share vulnerably with someone about like your body pain, and then all of a sudden they're like, next thing you know, they're your hero, here to save you, always like telling you you need help, or offering you
Got
help
all
or
these things.
unsolicited advice. So here's my ranting. No.
Well, it's true though, and again, I think it all stems from not wanting to engage with that moment, like not wanting to engage with that feeling or that process or that thing. Like the feelings are so, the body feels things so intently, both on a physical level and an emotional level, and our spirit has feelings, but they don't operate the same way. I think in some aspects it's so intense that all we want
The
to do is just
spirit
like,
just thinks it's
oh,
funny. The spirit's like, ha ha
oh,
ha, what you doing down there, body?
yeah. Or I don't
Or
know, I like
go
to
push through it, body. We gotta grow. We gotta do things.
well, yeah, I like to equate it with like this to the spirit. It has an awareness that there's an emotion and awareness. It's like when you stubbed your toe when you were 5, you have a memory and awareness that hurt. But it's not until the moment you stub your toe right now that you're like, oh, oh, that hurts. and and I think a lot of times the body expression, the spirit has an awareness of it. And Mary, oh yeah, that wasn't, we got through it. Wasn't so bad. And the body experiences, and it's like, oh my gosh, to the point
Yeah.
where, then part of it's just like, I don't want to deal with that. I'm just going to avoid it. And I can avoid it by handing it off to that person or burying it deep or just, that didn't happen. Pretty sure I never stubbed my toe. Never happened.
Brush it under the rug. Brush it under.
Yeah. But yeah, and then the aspect of wanting to save someone else. How often is that because we have something that we don't want to heal in ourselves, but oh hey, I handled that one over there.
Yep.
I'll go do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Save and be saved. And it doesn't work trying to fix other people's problems or hand your problems off to other people. It might provide temporary relief, I think, but ultimately it doesn't really work because we can't heal energy that's not ours. It's
Right.
not our job or our business. But it feels good to be the hero sometimes. I mean, I've definitely played that for people, or often it's a both. It's a two-way street where, oh, I'll fix this for you, you fix that for me, and the dynamic kind of works for a while, and then ultimately it's like, okay,
Then you
this
get
is
mad because they can't
really,
fix it. They're not
yeah,
fixing it. Why are you not fixing me anymore?
yeah, it gets more and more draining, and Eventually you just gotta blow it up.
That's funny. Yeah, it brings up, I had somebody ask me, because I was talking about that, how, nobody can heal anybody else. You're the only one that can heal yourself. They're like, well, isn't part of your work that you do healings, that you work energetic, you heal people? I'm like, that is part of my work, but it's not me healing them. I provide a space, and I can resonate certain energies within their space so they can notice where a block is, or where a source of pain is, or even just something that they always maybe assumed was themselves, because maybe they had it from the time their body was forming in the womb. Maybe it belongs to their mom, but they don't really know any different, because from the moment they had a physical body, it was there. And you can resonate that, but it's, the person has to be willing to shift that energy. The person has to be willing to go like, oh, yeah, I don't want that, and let it go. So it's, they're healing themselves, and I'm just kind of facilitating the,
Mhm.
did you see that dirt on your forehead there, or that thing back there?
Yeah, it's really interesting too. I think, what's the Ram Dass quote? It's like, healing is restoring to wholeness or something. And I think this is why it's so important to have conversations about what words mean to
Yeah,
each person, because I've noticed like a lot of resistance to the word healing out there in certain spheres. I don't know if it's when coaches came in and they're like, oh, we don't like the healers, or I don't know, but it's like this resistance to the word healing. And some people think it means they're not perfect, or they're not good enough, or they're admitting they're flawed. And um, any word, I guess my point here is, any word could have all sorts of meanings and energies projected
through it.
onto it and through it. And there's so much, we're so used to being intellectual beings, beings of validating the physical and the intellect are like the two most common things on earth. So the mental kind of space gets a hold of certain words and just starts attacking them. Like, you see it on social media and things of people trying to sell their stuff, attacking certain words or systems. And it's all like, kind of in that mental space. And um, I think one of the great things I learned from one of my teachers is the word could come through in any which way. And I've always said this too, that it's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's like the underlying energy.
Yeah.
We could say beep, bim, bing, boom, bam, ba, and that could mean something, but what tone are you saying it with? And yeah, there are the specific meanings or originations of words, but I guess my point here is like, it's always good to look at, is this my mind reacting or analyzing this word or concept? That's actually maybe my subconscious mind trying to keep me from growing. To tie it back to our other conversation.
Yeah. Or yeah, is the subconscious mind going, yeah, but the rule is here. So over here, that's the rule. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like,
Uh,
we always got to stay perfect, like, and so we're going to change words or control the situation so it always stays in this perfect way that keeps this subconscious program running.
yeah.
Do it. We'll do it. We're sneaky little beings.
My 16-year-old has been working for our next door neighbor, and he's probably in his late 60s, early 70s, somewhere in there. So, and working with them, they've been like redoing fence lines and, this stuff. But he has a lot of interesting conversations with them, which is great. But his neighbor said, he says, yeah, I think people your age, he said, they're afraid to make mistakes. So they won't do anything that runs the risk of even maybe making a mistake, or maybe being wrong. So you guys just really, you limit yourself, not from, oh, that didn't work for me, but I'm afraid it might not. I'm afraid that might not. Am I afraid? I know this one. This is, this is okay.
Yes,
And
I can
uh,
see. I can see what it looks like in this 5-inch room.
Yeah. It's like, I'm right here and I know how to do that. I can do that. I can do that well.
And, you know, there's no judgment on that either, because
No,
I was
it's not, it's
actually
just
thinking about
interesting.
this earlier as I was working with in a healing space. It's like, you know what? Like, this person's really comfortable with that. And I'm really comfortable with this. And I don't want to grow and change right now. And this is working for me. So I'm not going to force myself to do it before I'm ready.
Yeah.
That's so liberating.
Yeah.
Be like, what are those outside influences that want to push us?
Do more
Push
and
us.
different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had an energy check from someone, and fortunately, being who I am and the tools that we have, I could read the energy behind her words, but the words came was like, "Oh, you don't even want to grow." I mean, and that was the tone of voice, because it was so startling to her that like you said, it was like I was in a place where things were balanced, things were working, and that was good for now. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I really had no desire to change any of that to do
Mm-hmm.
something else, and it was so foreign to how she attacks life that it came out as a judgment. And she immediately was just like, "Oh, I didn't mean that the way it sounded," and I just laughed because I was like, "I know," but it was true. It was like all of these pieces are working, and I had no desire to move any of them in a different way yet. And then, 5, 6 months later or whatever, I'm like, all right, this is still working good. And then I'm dissatisfied right here. I don't like this piece. And so I got to take that piece out, and that breaks this. And then I got to, now this is broken. And then you got to figure out something new that works for all those pieces or things.
Yeah. It's amazing how we can kind of look ahead as psychics, not in the way of reading the future, but like start preparing ourselves for the change and the growth to happen naturally. Because, you know, I think that those are some of the most disorienting times when I've decided to do it unnaturally, when it was an impetus. I call it either the carrot or the stick from outside of myself, saying grow, when really, you know, and this goes along with the class we did the other day in Aspen Oracle that I taught on growth periods. What some of the great hellos you had, you saw in yourself is, you know, like that need to push or grow faster from childhood programming, and versus like a rose just blooms, you know, when a seed is ready to sprout, it sprouts when the conditions are right. They may not
That's
be
the thing.
perfect,
Yeah.
you know, but they're right. You know, one half might be rotting, but it's still going to sprout out those other side. You know, when the conditions are right as they need to be, it sprouts and the flower grows. And then that good old Anise Nin quote, you know, and then when it was too painful to stay in a bud any longer, it bloomed, or I don't know the exact words, but it's
Yeah.
just natural.
Just happens naturally. That's what I've been thinking over and over this past 5 days of that. I'm going to say his name wrong because he's Chinese. Lao Zhu, Lu Zhao.
Mhm.
Uh, quote of, nature never hurries, and yet everything gets done.
Yep. Yes, we have that on the Aspen Oracle website, many places. It's like my mantra for being a creative, fiery person. You know, that's been one of my big soul lessons, I think, is how to stay grounded and grow in a way that, and create in a way that brings my body with respect along.
Yes. Is kind to it. Yeah. Well, and as a mom, I don't know, that's always another level of challenge. You got what you're trying to demonstrate to your children, which is all based on your own programming of how, anyway, but and then society's pressures of what they're supposed to be or how they're supposed to be, and all this, grow this way, do that, do you, and I don't know, last night was parent teacher conferences, and it was just, normally I don't dread that night, but it's not my favorite because usually the teachers are all focused on a very certain achievement picture. And I don't know if this is because if this is one of those changes in the way we do things in life that the pandemic's engineer, but every single teacher was just about how much they appreciated the person my child was, and how
Aw.
they handled things and how they engaged and how they, there was no talk about the achievement or this or that or what the grade was, and that was such a contrast to prior to the pandemic. It was,
Wow.
yeah, it just made me so happy. It was like,
Mm.
oh, we're seeing people, not as their achievement or their,
Yeah, that was one of my questions when you were talking about maybe this will be what changed from the pandemic is what do you think has changed, And sounds like you're saying maybe we've dropped a little bit of our achievement orientation.
yeah, and just how we, yeah, I do think society for a long time had a way of seeing people against some sort of measurement chart, some sort of grid, box, whatever. And yeah, really seeing people as people and really seeing, yeah, that rhythms and what's right for this or that doesn't have to be right for everyone, and kind of, um, I mean, it's kind of funny because freedom in some way and constraint in others, but the, I lost all the sentence I was going to say. I just got to breathe for a minute. Blow rose. Um,
Yeah, there's kind of
the
like when I'm
ability to
watching
see
you.
yourself and bring, like you were saying, that center of the bringing yourself into everything you're doing, and not just allowing you have to do, not being done to or doing to, is like, I'm bringing myself here because this is how I operate and this is what I like to do. So I do think there's just a lot more seeing self and seeing people as like the wholeness of who they are.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I'm sure if my children were not showing up and not doing assignments, there would have been more talk about that. But
Yeah, it's funny because I watched you even in that moment when you're like, oh, I gotta blow rose and look at it's like, and by the way, this was on my list too. How we look at things in conversation as intuitives or psychics. And so I watched you kind of like all of a sudden we're talking about the pandemic and we're trying to talk about what good has come of it. So all of a sudden you were hit with all this energy that was like all the bad things
yeah,
about it. And then you trying to sort out,
like
well, what
wait,
was the growth? What was the good? And that's, one of the ways with the energy tools we teach and learn and use is how to really sort out the truth from the lie and find, yeah, the growth and what's good in those spaces. And I think now I'm sorting through some energy, but
yeah, like, and whoa,
it's like oh, that's what I also saw when you were talking was you were, getting hit with that energy and also all the support. So there's been this huge dichotomy going on this past year, kind of all this, the COVID catalyst energy and all the negativity and drama and fear with it. And then spiritually, there's just been, and astrologically, there's been tons of support for all the light workers and light beings and for us to come out of this, for us to emerge out of this stronger. And so that's what I saw at play when you were talking too.
um, yeah, it
Hmm.
is amazing. Yeah, like when COVID first started, that's actually all I could see was just that it was just a catalyst. And then other energies, both sides of the equation or all sides of the equation come in and react to that catalyst, right? So catalyst and then negative energy and fear and and then on the other side was more like, hey, take care of yourself. What do you need to do? Be how do you be healthy? How do you, and really watching across, I mean, so many things kind of amaze me. One, on a global level, in plus or minus weeks or whatever, but on a global level, all of humanity at the same time said, "Whoop, we're going to withdraw and we're just going to be in our own space for a little bit." Hibernation to the biggest degree ever. As a planet, not just as a nation or as a country, you know, but it's like everybody.
Right. And all the wildlife started coming out everywhere.
Right.
People are posting pictures in Colorado. The bighorn sheep came out from the mountains and they're running around town. And
The canals in Venice totally cleared out, and the porpoises swimming through them for the first time, and people in India posting pictures and posting like, this was the sky 2 weeks ago, and this is the sky today, and all the pollution just gone,
yeah,
and it was
really
crazy fast how fast nature just kind of reestablished its balance.
yeah, and how well people worked together.
Yeah.
How well the collective kind of collaborated. Well, some of the time.
Well, I would say actually, yeah, most of the time it was, you know, truly in an effort of, yeah, of supporting each other. And then, you know, like I said, then the, you know, the negative or the more fearful energies come through, and then depending on how much you resonate with those, change kind of maybe what your perception of the thing to do to support everyone was. But
The choose a side energy,
oh yes.
really came on. So there's a wave of that, and still kind of a wave of that going
And
on.
I think that was a direct reaction to that whole uh synergistic, oh, we're all going to do this, is like, wait, you guys can't all operate together, and that's way too powerful. And so,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and whether you think of them as energy control beings or just bad people, or I mean,
Yeah, I
it doesn't
just
really
saw
matter.
that even though people chose a side, and somehow it's helping them sort the truth in their own way. Like, doesn't matter which side, or if they chose a side, it's like they're still kind of getting to similar places within themselves, using that side as a lens or something. Yeah. That
Yeah.
resolve of like, well, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. This is what I believe or value,
Right. And again, going back to bringing your whole self, this is what's important to me, and you know, and certainly, you know, as normal, what other energies match what you're running, you attract to that, and you see that, and you on the other, and I mean, it's just kind of how everything really works. But it's and here I'm finding that this is you know, that perspective of outside yourself that can just be kind of amused at things that are going on, versus the part of you that just stepped your toe, is like, what, this really sucks.
yes, we had that experience while traveling this weekend. We went to Santa Fe, and on the ride home, all of a sudden we find ourselves in a an anti-masker bar or restaurant. I look up this place. Ooh, let's go to this place for dinner on the way home. And we get in, and no one in there is wearing a mask. And which I don't know. I go places where I don't wear a mask. I go places where I do. If I'm honest, it's more like, what are people comfortable with here? And do I feel like the energy is aligned this way or that way? But this was the first time I went to a place where people weren't wearing masks, where they weren't healers. So, and so I'm wearing my mask. Nick is wearing his mask, and we ultimately had to leave because Nick didn't feel comfortable, which I totally get. And, just to see that live in action, like, this is the law, he's like, this is the law. And the people there who are like rebelling against the law on purpose, and to like be like, yeah, basically like, I just stubbed my toe. I just walked into this moment of like real life scenario. I'm not just reading about it on Facebook anymore. Moment. And I was mostly just amused and fine with it, but I did have to like really consciously not go into the drama of the two like trying to fight about it, and to sing my rise above and find the love song as we're driving away. Yeah, these moments where we're actually like facing the sides, yet we're not choosing a side
Right.
either.
You just, yeah, and honoring what you need in a moment, you know, it's like, yeah.
Yeah, or what someone else needs, even if you're like, well, I could eat here and be fine, I'm not worried. I really wanted that pizza. But then it was actually really amazing because we went to the next town and found this amazing Indian restaurant where the woman who waited on us was a total grounding healer, like mama type. The place was like a sanctuary. Like I was like, oh, okay, this feels like just
It feels so good.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you love walking to places where people can create that vibration? I'm always my stepmom can create that and just everywhere that they live or it's just like I just how I want to create this so when people walk into my house they feel that
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
powerful.
I do a little bit but not like that and it's obviously not in my wheelhouse to do it any different. So.
Well, I must say you've done an excellent job with it in this conversation, and that's part of what I sent you earlier, a little postcard. I guess I'm going to tell you what it said, but it was, that I just love talking to you about pretty much anything, and you really do set that really welcoming, safe space because you have such this level of like neutrality and enthusiasm with whatever it is you're talking about and exploring. You're one of the few people I feel like I can talk to about anything, and you don't go into fix it mode or savior mode. And it's just like easy to talk and look at things with kind of curiosity and enthusiasm and neutrality. So you're doing it in this podcast.
Yay. Now and I received those words and I really appreciate feeling that because it's yeah it's different than the way my stepmom can do it with a physical location and but yeah I can recognize this is my wheelhouse and this is what I do and this is how I am and certainly there's things I want to add to my wheelhouse and there's nothing that says I can't other than there is also the part of me who's like how long am I going to try and do this thing that's just wasting my time not in my wheelhouse before I'm like it's all right.
You just gotta be you.
Yeah.
Be you, because everyone else is taken, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it's another conversation, the fine line between using people that you interact with or see or as inspiration and using them as a judgment of your life. It's one thing to look at someone and be like, oh, I want to be like that and
Mm-hmm.
expand yourself. And another would be like, oh, I can't do that and judge yourself and constrict yourself.
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
and
Yeah.
it's like a hair. It's not even a line, like a hair.
Right. I want to do that in my own way, or I'm gonna judge myself and be secretly jealous, or try to, have that person do what they do for me, or, in the
Yeah.
business sense. Sometimes I think it happens when people want something someone else has, they try to be like, oh, make you have that for.
Well, I think that happens a lot in the business world. Well, how do you do things? How do you do social marketing? There's these formulas, there's these things, and that's that I and I wasn't planning on talking about this, but here it is.
We just keep
That's
going and going.
that's one of those things that I really love about the business you created through Soulful Brand and the branding work you did even before you created that. It's like really saying hello to what is that person, that business like as an entity, what are their values, what's their thing that they're bringing, how do you and then marketing then looks different depending on what's what. I mean, I could go to all kinds of meetings and hand out business cards and be like, your healer, I'm your healer, I'm your healer, and that's never going to work for me because well, one, I don't heal people, but two, I like to work with people who are wanting to make a change, and it just has to be kind of a synergistic moment in the universe where somehow they're ready to make a change and I can hold space for them and they somehow hear about me and there they are. And they might only be there for 3 or 4 months and then they might be
Yeah,
off
there's
on
a
something
quality of
else.
interdependence, speaking of fine lines, right?
Right.
There's the hairlines between these relationship things. There's independence. Um, well, even if we start with dependence to codependence to independence to interdependence, where it's like, okay, and I think it relates to how much someone is in their own power and their own sovereignty too, that a lot of times we'll make ourselves dependent or codependent on someone else, especially when we bring in those worlds of formulas, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the times where it's like independence. Oh, I have to do it all myself. I can follow that formula, or I'll learn to be an artist, or
Yeah.
I'll do this. And it's like we're really doing things, like you said, that aren't in our wheelhouse. And
And we figured out how to do them. It might have taken us 9 years, but by golly, I figured out how to draw that thing.
yeah, and then there's the interdependence where it's like, okay, there's that balance in of being in each person being in their personal power and the right relationship with each other, where there's that um, balance. And I'm trailing off here, but
New,
there's some energy around this one.
new thought is
Um,
coming in, or
mhm. Yeah, exactly.
well,
And it's hard to find. Sometimes we don't know it and we're not perfect at it. And I think that's what we're part of what we're here to learn about too, is how to be in relationship with each other in a way that serves us as individuals and the whole. And so the process of learning about that can be messy and
it's definitely
fun
messy.
and growthful and right, so
Yeah, I was just thinking about even those stages: dependence, codependence, independence, interdependence, or collaboration. Like we are individually just such a mix of that, depending on even what we're looking at. Like in a certain area, you might be totally dependent on like, I have no idea how to do that. Da, 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 da. And in other areas, you have that codependence where, I'm going to be your hero. You better appreciate me, or you're not appreciating me. You must leave. And then, like you said, the independence, just like, well, I'm big enough to do it myself. And that, and just all the different aspects, like,
and all of them have a shadow side and a
I,
light side, right? Because
yeah,
babies are, of course, going to be dependent in
right,
some ways. And there's a truth and a light and an authenticity to that when it's appropriate, when it's the right relationship.
right. And the ability to totally support somebody and give them that unconditional, nurturing, or the things that they need. Not that we are all really great at that. It's also a struggle, but when it happens in that moment, it's very beautiful. But treating somebody who's in their 30s as if they're a 2-month-old infant, it's probably not so healthy.
But to a certain degree, right? Because there's in that shadow side of independence, there's like we think we're grown up and healed, or we should be grown up, but there's still this wounded little girl part that does need some healing. But when it's
Right.
done consciously, like, oh, I'm going to see a therapist or a healer and work with that part with my adult self on board, then it's helpful. But if that unconscious, like 2-year-old is driving the bus and demanding,
Who
you
gave
know,
them the keys? Who gave them the keys?
yeah, demanding something all day long, right now, right away, or else I'm gonna not, you know,
Yeah.
it's yeah. So these are all fun. Speaking of the conscious to the unconscious, more things to explore.
And isn't there always more? I mean, I don't know. I can remember when we were doing the clairvoyant, when I was doing the clairvoyant program, and you start and you're like, all right, it'll be 2 years, but there's this unconscious, unwritten thing. Like when I get to the end of that, I'll be perfect. I won't have any more issues. I'll have had all the growth I need, and I'll be perfect. And well, mm, and I remember being totally kind of struck, like a 2 by 4 moment, um, when this person said it, but I found such relief in it. They're like, well, here's the thing: you've graduated, and you're not perfect, and you're going to lose your space. and the whole inside of me just went, "Ah!" He's like, but the good news is now you have tools and you'll find it in a millisecond. You'll refine your space that fast.
Exactly. They should rename graduation as like training wheels off.
Off. Yeah.
Yeah, with anything. I remember it graduating from college, like, oh shit, this is the first time my life has not been planned out for me.
Right.
And it's really like, it's not like, yeah, you're graduating. It's more like, yeah, training wheels off. It should say graduation is
Right. Right. Well, yeah. Or even
being
even
kicked out of the
going to
nest.
college, right?
Yeah.
I'm independent. I'm going to college. I'm on my own. Where they tell me you have to sign up for this many classes and they have to be this composition and you have to live here and this is what you. It's like there's
Yeah.
this whole.
I still have nightmares that I didn't do that right. And somehow I'm not graduating because I missed that class, or I went to science class and slept through it every time or forgot to go. Or, yeah.
All those things. So yes, graduation should. Yeah, it's like you got to remove the training wheels. Now you went to a different bike. Oh, we
Yep.
gave you unicycle. You probably want training wheels again for a
Kicked you
little
out
bit.
of the nest. But yes, you have tools. You do have more tools and knowledge and insight and courage and all of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And so now he's just like, whoa, I'm having a day. I better run my energy for a moment and see if I can find my body.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Mm.
well, we are about an hour in, and if we are complete, we can be complete. If we want to take a break, we can take a break. If we have more to talk about, we can talk longer.
Mm. Yeah, let's see. I'm feeling winding down for sure. Um, it may be complete.
Maybe
No, I don't
that's
know.
kind of how it feels. Yeah.
Yeah, feels
So.
like
Well, I so appreciate you coming and sharing yourself and your thoughts and your experiences. And it is truly the thing that I enjoy most about getting to work with you every week. And when we went traveling together and when we do all those things, it's just so much fun to have a sister out there.
oh, thank
So,
you.
yeah.
Yes, I agree. It's like just playing as sisters and spirithood.
Yes. Yes. And yeah, not genetically at all or anything, but
Yeah.
just yeah. Spiritual path travelers or whatever, but we always have we
We
always
can
have a
come
good
up
time.
with a different name for it every
Yeah.
week.
Let's how many words? No. How many
What
words
are
are
we
there?
calling our relationship this week, Shareen? That was fun. I
Yes.
like it.
All right. Well, thank you all who are listening for joining, and I hope you enjoyed our wide and varied path of ins and outs of connected themes. And as always, conversation is wonderful because it goes wherever it goes. And I just love that we can talk about anything when we're amongst friends.
Yay. Awesome.